Hey everybody, and welcome back to Movie Hell. This time it's me, your host, Ryan, joined by my co-host, Joe. And the reason I sound so glum is I recommended a movie that was hyped up to me by a guy who runs trivia here at the bar. And I don't know how I feel about it. The movie is Burn After Reading, which seems like it would be hard to go wrong, just given the cast that's in it: John Malkovich, George Clooney, Brad Pitt. What's your favorite? The one you were really upset that she didn't do a nude scene in this movie?
Oh, that'd be Frances McDormand. I was
Yeah, there we go.
heartbroken.
From the masterpiece Darkman, best known for her role. Anyway,
Nomadland. Is that what you're gonna bring that?
no.
Nomadland.
Best known for her
Okay.
role as Liam Neeson's girlfriend in Darkman.
Yeah, I mean,
So, yeah, this movie it's how would I describe it? It's almost like a Friends episode involving the spy community.
sort of.
It's all these like weird mix-ups and mishaps and just not knowing what to do, and a lot of the problems would have been solved by modern technology. And it's just a really, really strange movie. So I'm interested to hear what you think about it first.
This was one of those movies that I thought, hearing about it, seeing the previews, I was like, "Oh, this looks like it could be fun." And I'd say for the most part, it's fairly fun. It's lighthearted in some areas. Other areas is pretty serious about what's going on. Like there's some relationship stuff that goes on that's little more heavy than you might expect, and some just themes about what people are trying to do, some things that happen in it that are pretty dark. But overall, it is this quirky, goofy, trying to be kind of funny and self-aware movie. And I think a lot of the praise that was heaped onto this movie was because of Brad Pitt's portrayal in it. I don't think up to that point he'd really played any characters like this. In this, in case anybody doesn't know, he plays an athletic trainer, a person who you can go to a gym and they will train you to be a better version of yourself. And he's just this over the top, enthusiastic, kind of really ridiculous caricature of a character. And in the beginning, the first time I watched it years ago, that was fun and I liked it. But, watching it this time, I don't think I was as enamored with it. And actually, I ended up kind of feeling bad for him throughout most of this movie. Like he's just railroaded by this other character to do a bunch of stuff that he doesn't really want to do because they have this ulterior motive of it's really just selfish what they're trying to get out of it. But this movie's just it's got somewhat of a story, but I think it's really mostly about the characters who were in it. Like that's this thing, and it's a Coen Brothers movie. So if you know Coen Brothers movies, it does feel like one of those. I'd say without question, but I don't necessarily think it is. I don't think it's their best.
I would agree with that.
Like I'm a fan of several other ones before this one, but that being said, I wouldn't say it was terrible. I think it's just kind of falls in the median average of things. Not super great, not terrible. It may have been overhyped to you per se, and considering what we could have watched instead of this, we might have to end up watching that next time. But it was it was a movie that got made, and I think it was something that the Coen brothers were writing at the same time as they were writing No Country for Old Men, and they would work on one script one day and one script another day.
Those are some very different movies to be working on at the same time. I guess maybe you need an outlet for different kinds of energy.
Yeah, maybe.
That sounds like that might be the most Hollywood sounding thing I've ever said.
It's not the least Hollywood thing you ever said. But this was I know you had mixed feelings about this once the movie ended. How did Ryan feel about it?
So I think it's probably safe to spoil a lot of it, but not. I mean, it's hard to like tell everything that happens in it. I mean, essentially, God, it's a story of a lot of people self destructing.
Mm-hmm.
You start off with John Malkovich's character, who's being essentially fired for being probably the way he is. You just see throughout the movie that he's like a horrific person to try to deal with. Um, he is, unbeknownst to him, being divorced by his wife, who is encouraged by her lawyer to dig into his financials and figure out what he's got before they do anything. So she's on his computer, takes a bunch of information, and winds up losing it. Or no, actually, sorry, like a paralegal or a secretary ends up losing it at the gym.
Right.
And because this guy worked in intelligence and the wife didn't really know what she was looking at, a bunch of classified looking information got out. And that set off this whole chain of events. So there's a selfish character who wants something for her, just for herself, just to help her look better and feel better about herself. And that's kind of one of the main things pushing the whole story forward. But there's infidelity and violence and just chance encounters and people using poor judgment. I mean, a lot of it could have been solved by Brad Pitt using a different voice when he, as Chad, sorry,
Oh my god.
when he's on the phone where he's like, "Are you what was his name? Something Cox,
Oh, Osborne. Osborne
Osborne,
Cox.
Osborne Cox," and he keeps saying it like that. And it's this really weird, just this really weird like personality that he develops while he's trying to do this and act like a spy, because he's like, "Oh, we just got to give it back to the guy. Like it's the right thing to do. Maybe we'll get
Yeah.
some kind of little
Yeah,
reward. That'll be
like a
good."
finder's fee.
Yeah, which is like fine. It's whatever. Like I was on a ferry when I was on vacation a couple years ago. I accidentally dropped my wallet. Kid found it. I gave him like $10 or whatever, like whatever I had in my wallet. But the way he does it, he's like, first we have to talk about our fee or whatever. Like there's no, I don't know, just everything has gone about totally wrong, and it makes this like shitstorm, and it's actually very entertaining for the most part, apart from the fact that it made me very uncomfortable for a lot of it. And I really don't like. I've already pushed her name out of my head again. Karen,
Frances McDormand.
yeah, but her name is Karen in the movie, right?
Is it?
Karen something. Are you looking it up?
Yeah. Linda.
Ah,
Linda
Linda.
Litsky.
Okay, Kim. I think Kim said Karen. I think Kim must have been calling her a Karen.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I really did not like that character. There's just so much going on. There's like a little bit of a love triangle too, but it's just you see the stuff George Clooney's doing that screws up his life.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff going on with his family and his situation. What John Malkovich is doing, like you see behind the scenes that the CIA is like totally aware of everything that's going on. I also realized that there's a Russian guy that they encounter at the embassy.
Uh-huh.
That guy played, I think, General Zhukov or something like that in The Americans. Because I
Yeah,
knew he looked super familiar. I'd
he's
seen him
been a
as
Russian
a
character in several things. I
yes,
know I knew I recognized him.
yeah. I had seen him as a Russian in a bunch of different stuff, but it was like he's really really familiar, and I think that is that's where it came from. So, I mean, ultimately, it comes down to not a conclusion, but maybe more realistic, kind of like we talked about in our last review. Like sometimes you find a more realistic ending for things than a movie would normally have, and I think this is kind of one of those. It just hit an end where not everybody wins, not everybody loses. Oh no, kind of everybody loses. Kind of everybody ends up a little bit worse in this than they should have been or would have been otherwise. But it just peters out. It's a train wreck, and all the cars finally got wrecked, and then it was just over.
Yeah, I'd go with that. Um, I was just thinking about how the way that things play out in this. So you've got these two characters of Chad and Linda who work at Hard Bodies. They're just they're just people who work at a gym. That's all that they pick up towels and they wipe off seats and they kind of try to be little personal trainer people and they find this information And it ends up, you find out throughout the course of the movie that the information is crap. It is utterly not worth anything at all to anybody. And even, so this is the information. It's a memoir of Osborne Cox. And even his wife, when he gets the call from them about them wanting money, and she's like, who would want money for that? Like, how's it? It's not valuable.
Right.
And that was just her kind of in the beginning, before you really knew anything, her busting his balls because she doesn't love him anymore. She's starting to divorce him. So she doesn't give a crap about him. But the way this goes down, some things that happen in it are very real. Like you just said, the way it ends, particularly. Some of the things that happen to some of the characters, like poor old Chad. But for the most part, a part of it, at least now that I'm thinking about it, reminded me of American Animals, when the kids are trying to plan that heist, and they have these grand illusions of how it's going to go and how it's going to be, and yet when the actual event happens, the way they showed it in the film was way more realistic than what a lot of films do. It wasn't fun. Mm-hmm. It wasn't no music playing. It was kind of horrific for all parties involved. And as they're on the phone with an ex-CIA member, it seems like, I mean, I know it wasn't like now with the kind of cell phones and things we have now, but it was still cell phone time. So the technology was not terrible, and it's almost guaranteed that he could make a phone call. Hey, I need the number that just called here traced. Find out where that place was, because they called from her house, and then pretty much go from there. Like, that could have been horrible for them, but it escalated kind of to that when Chad meets him. I'm sorry, not Chad, Mr. Black.
Yep.
Meets him in the car, and that particular scene with him and John Malkovich was great. That was a fun scene, and there are some really fun moments in this. I feel like the characters who were in it, at least certain ones, had a really good time playing their characters. I think Brad Pitt had fun. John Malkovich had fun. George Clooney looked like he was having fun with it. I think he really enjoys working with the Coen brothers. He's done it on several occasions, at least 3 times that I know of. And he was having a good time with this, playing this just raging sexaholic, just trying to sleep with anything that he possibly could, cheating on his wife, who was kind of like, he talked about the things that he did, but you never really was. I don't know if he retired, or I think he was just, living off of her. It felt like how it was. She was this author for kids' books and going and doing her thing.
Yeah, it was hard to tell how he had the time to do the stuff that he was doing.
He had a lot of time. But there were things in it that I'd say definitely bugged me. And it was, maybe I'm just old-fashioned, maybe I'm out of touch, and maybe too many people are living like this, but everybody's cheating on everybody else. Like these characters, these wives who want to get divorced, well, their husbands are cheating on them, or they're cheating on their husbands, and like that's their view of marriage. That's what the way marriage is portrayed in this movie. You've got Linda, who isn't married and is trying to, meet guys. She goes on a date with this one guy who, that was just terrible.
Uncomfortable to watch, let alone be on.
Ugh. Yeah. Oh, he beat on her. He sure did. And she goes on this date, and it's ridiculous and it's terrible, and they go to a quote unquote funny movie. He's not laughing. They go to eat at a restaurant. He's not talking. And they go back to her place. Or his place nookie. Somewhere. Yeah.
I think it was his place.
Okay. Or a hotel room.
Because it looked unfamiliar. Like, it didn't look like the scene of her place that we see later.
Maybe it reminded me of a hotel room, which makes sense. And then she gets her hands on his wallet, and there's this note in there that looks like it was written from a wife. Please bring home.
That was my assumption too. So it was like milk, eggs, like normal grocery type stuff.
Right. And so everybody's cheating on everybody, and that sort of thing kind of rubs me the wrong way. I think you could maybe try and portray it the other way, but is it unfair to do that? I don't know if it is when more than 50% of marriages ended up in failure right now. It's just, that's kind of the world we live in. People don't they woefully underestimate the amount of effort it takes to stay married. So that's just its own separate thing. So that in and of itself I think kind of bothered me. And like you talked about, nobody ends up really winning in this. It could be argued, if one was so inclined while having a discussion about such movie, the women end up winning in this. John Malkovich's wife, character played by Tilda Swinton, she wins because he's gone.
I
George
mean,
Clooney's wife, both those women were gonna divorce their men. So the fact of what happened to their men, who cares? They end up getting what they want.
well, but she doesn't. Tilda Swinton doesn't get to be with George Clooney's character.
This is true. Which
I mean, she gets divorced, but they don't end up. It doesn't end up the way she wanted it to be.
and the way he walked out on her, it's one of the best
That was
scenes.
pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, that was so good.
This is one of those movies that reminds me like very, very slightly of The Green Knight.
Okay.
Because it's one where it's like it's about the journey, and it's not what the Green Knight was. It's not something that I'm going to think about from time to time and be like, man, remember that. But it is one of those ones where it's much more about the journey than where the story ends up. And I really, really like the addition of the CAA guys like J.K. Simmons and whoever the underling was, who are, they just know what's going on. It's like, okay, we recovered this body. Like, what should we do with it? Get rid of it, burn it. Like, what are you talking about? Or like, okay, this information's been leaked. Okay, what was the clearance level of the analyst? Level 3. Oh, I don't care.
Yeah, he
keep an
looks
eye
over
on
the
it.
file. He gives it a quick scan. Oh yeah, well, there's nothing. Okay, whatever. Keep an eye on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring the FBI in on this. He's like, oh, what? No. Oh God, no! Don't do that. Like that's gonna turn it into a whole thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a fun journey. It's just like it was. I don't know. It's like waiting for something more. I felt like I was waiting for something the whole time that never really happened.
Really, I kind of thought that moment I feel like was supposed to be the one interaction between Brad Pitt and George Clooney.
The kind of the climax.
Yeah, which wasn't at the end of the movie. It
was
ended up
pretty
happening
early on.
earlier than I thought. Not quite 2/3 of the way, maybe. That really put everything into like a tailspin.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of feel like that was what the directors were shooting for that moment.
Right. Right. This is what's going to really put some stank on the rest of it.
Uh-huh. Did it not?
No,
Was it not stanky enough for you?
It was great. It was great. There was one moment in it that I thought about too, because your oldest asked to watch it with us and wound up not. And I realized we would have had to explain the situation where Linda and Chad both picked up the phone.
I mean, that's not the scene I was thinking of when I said, no, you can't watch this. He's a hobbyist.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
chair
yeah.
Thing.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking like, what in there is worse than anything you would see on like TikTok or YouTube in a given day, or hear about in like the hallways of a high school?
I hope that.
Yeah, you can hope.
Maybe,
I don't know.
Which that was
You just
nice...
don't want to. You just don't want to be the one to be there. You don't want to be the one to introduce it.
No, I'm good. Otherwise, anything else about that movie, there's nothing wrong with that.
$100, all in, except the dildo. I'm not set up to mold hard rubber yet.
And he's making it for his wife. I love you, baby. I got your present. I finished it. I finished your surprise. Yeah, he was. I mean, he plays this smooth scumbag. Everybody has their character, and I believe that one of the real draws of this movie originally when it came out was Brad Pitt's character and how different it was than anything else he'd done up to that point. That quirky and goofy, and like he just didn't play characters like that.
Yeah, what was this? 2008-ish?
I think so. I think that's what they said for this. 2008, okay. Yes.
Yeah. So, kind of it's probably fairly early on in his career.
But not that early on.
Yeah, but early
I
enough that you're probably right. Like a weird role for him. Weird role at that time.
all right. Oh, why is it okay? No, trying to look something up and didn't quite go the way I wanted, so I'm doing it a
Mm.
different way. All right, come here, you.
Come here, you.
Come here, you. All right. Yes, this. Okay, so 2008, Burn After Reading. Like he'd done so much. He This was after Ocean's 13, so all of those. He'd done Troy, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Yeah, he was in some other stuff like Friends, and
He did
apparently he
Mr. and
voiced
Mrs.
Sinbad.
Smith before that?
Uh huh.
Huh.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith was 2005.
Oh.
The Mexican, which was ridiculous.
So and that would have been well before, yeah, well before Interview with the Vampire, because the way he said Osborne Cox reminded me a lot of his character there.
What was well before Interview with the Vampire?
No, Interview with the Vampire being well before
Yes. Okay.
Burn
Correct.
After Reading.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I said that backwards, that wasn't what I meant.
All right, I'm like, so he'd done a number of things up to that point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying I don't know that he'd done a bunch of comedic roles or anything.
No, for sure. Like I know he was in Friends, but I'm looking over this stuff, and
That was just because he was
he
dating
played
Jennifer
some.
Aniston, right? Really?
Maybe, probably,
I think so.
but he he had some interesting roles before
Mhm.
then. 12 Monkeys. I really enjoyed Snatch. Fight Club's great. He's got, ooh, he's got a lot of things after this too. Ooh, man. Apparently a bunch of TV series
Hmm.
that I didn't even realize. Underground Railroad, Lego Masters, Americana, Outer Range, Paper Girls, The Three Body Problem, which is apparently filming right now.
Hmm.
But anyways, it I liked what he got to do in this, but I think it got overblown. Apparently, the Coen brothers had somebody in mind for each one of the characters who were in this, with the exception of Tilda Swinton. But like
Hmm.
everybody else who they got in it, they wanted John Malkovich to be that character, and George Clooney and Pitt, and apparently Frances McDormand, who is married to Joel Coen.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah, I didn't know that either. I kind of feel bad for Joel now.
that. You mean just because she's howling at like the Academy Awards or whatever?
Yes. I mean, just yes. So one of the things I like to do on your Howligans is I like to go on the IMDb. I like to look up in the trivia and see a couple little fun facts and little things. But as I'm reading this, I'm noticing, and I've noticed this before, never really brought it up. Sometimes they put little neat things in here, or what they think are neat, and they're really kind of, I don't know if I consider it trivia. Like J.K. Simmons, his character in this. Apparently, he never stands up throughout the entire film. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
he's at his desk. He's in there for a couple of scenes, and that's it.
Yeah,
So him,
it's like a minute maybe each
right?
scene.
I don't know how that's trivia worthy. The fact that Miss Linda Litsky, she takes both her dates to see the same movie and eat at the same Chinese restaurant. Yeah, we saw that. Not really sure why that's
Yeah,
a big deal either.
it's a pretty big part of the contrast they're showing.
Right? That was kind of the point of it.
I don't know. They probably just have an intern like, "Hey, find something interesting to say about this movie," and they're like,
It could be.
All right, man. Well, I don't have a whole lot else to say about this movie. It's not super satisfying in that like nobody is really like just the good guy. Well, there is one good guy, probably the manager of Hard Bodies. He's probably the one that gets screwed over that doesn't really deserve it.
Yeah, the soulful manager of Hard Bodies, who he's kind of a simp. A little bit, he really wants to go out with Linda Litsky, but she's not looking at him at all like that. She's trying to work on herself, and it's that's a little bit of a thing there that he should have just stayed out of it. Should have just stayed out of it. Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Couldn't do it. And unlike you guys, I didn't hate John Malkovich's character in this. I liked him.
I like John Malkovich a lot, and it's hard to separate myself from that. But he played a very unpleasant person in this movie.
Um, I get that. I guess I'm just trying to see it from his shoes. He's in a marriage where his wife doesn't love him. He's in a job that he thinks he's doing a good job, but apparently isn't anywhere that's anywhere important. So the things he thinks he knows aren't nearly as valuable as what he thinks. He takes his infirmed father on his boat, and he's like talking to him about, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I'm trying to do."
I'm going to write a what? A memoir.
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 My memoir.
I would much rather hang out with him than his wife. That's for sure.
That is for sure. But I don't know. I think I liked him. His character. I liked his character. Yes, I like John Malkovich. That's easy. Everybody likes John Malkovich. I mean, come on. But
Yeah.
I liked his character in this. I think, at least compared to some of the other ones, I liked his character. I like Brad Pitt's character and the fact that I felt bad for him. I think I might rather hang out with Tilda Swinton's character in this than hang out with Brad Pitt's character in this, though. He was ooh, that was rough. He was tough to take. He was a lot. High energy.
Yeah. Man. Okay.
But, I'm old, so I like old stuff. We had the little kids over here over the past weekend or whatever it was. And I remember coming into the dining room and telling my wife, "Man, I know you're still thinking about us having a kid, but I don't know if I can do it. Like, it's little kids.
That's
I'm a little curmudgeonly for that. I can't put up with that kind of BS anymore. I'm just gonna like smack them. Bam! Shut up. I can't do it.
Better kids that way.
Oh, I mean, there is that school of thought. Too hard or too easy. I'd like to think that there is an in between that I'm trying to balance right now, but we'll see. Once they become adults, we'll see how I walk that line. Maybe great, maybe terrible. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's partially up to them to figure that out. But Alligans, this was an interesting Coen Brothers movie. I don't necessarily think it was terrible, but it's certainly, I'm not putting it on a must watch. It's not on my top 100 movies of all time. Nothing like that.
Yeah.
And the question,
it was definitely not what it was hyped up to me to be. Like, it was supposed to be this. Well, I don't know. It was just he didn't say it was amazing. He didn't say it was like a must see or anything. But he was like, "Hey, it's really good. It's better than I thought it was going to be."
Okay, that's a little less enthusiastic than you made it sound.
Yeah, but I mean, to be enthusiastic enough to even go up and tell somebody like, "You need to watch this."
This is true.
And then that's what it ends up being. I don't know, man.
I felt that way about the movie.
Every movie I've chosen, period.
Halligan's. I didn't say that. I didn't say that. Just throwing that out there. No, Men Who Stare at Goats. That was
one of those. One.
What?
That was a rough one.
Yeah, that was another George Clooney movie that was supposed to be, I think, more than I thought that it was.
Yeah. Yeah, that one is one where they made it look really good. There was some hype around it, and it was just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Not very fun.
Not bizarre in a compelling way.
I don't even think I've thought about that movie since I watched it until just now.
You're welcome. That's what I'm here for, buddy. That's why I'm here. That's why I came. You remember that quote?
I do. I can't think of what it's from.
Oh, what's his name? I want to get the character's name. The actor is Harrison Ford in the second movie we ever reviewed, which was supposed to be the first movie on the podcast.
Oh my God. Wait a minute. Is it that one where they're in the jungle?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes, it is.
What is that? I couldn't even cheat.
Allie Fox. That's the name of his character. Mosquito Coast.
Yes.
That's why I'm here. That's why I came. It was one of my dad's favorite quotes to say. And I like it myself, so I will continue that tradition. That will happen.
All right, man. Well, so is it a watch for you? I'll go ahead and lead off. It's a watch, but not a rent. Don't pay for it.
We paid for it. I paid for it.
Yeah.
Not worth. Not worth.
Yeah, I would say don't pay for it. If you're, I don't know that it's on any streaming service, but if you can get it at your library, watch it, or if
Yeah.
it's available through whatever, like your cable package, something like that. Sure, probably not worth the money just for that.
Library. I should have planned better. I should have done that. I got that capability. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I can't call this not a watch. I think I call this a watch. I think there are fun moments to it. I think there's one thing in particular I'm thinking of that a lot of people, it was what the directors expected to be the big twist. What a twist in the movie, but and it did. It had enough funny moments that I laughed at that I'm going to call this a watch. Not a fan of some of the people who were in it. Well, kind of one of the people who were in it. But realistically, otherwise, it's okay. I think it's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I might agree with you. I wouldn't go out of my way to pay for it, but I'd say it's worth a watch.
Okay. Yeah, if you can find it, watch it, sure, but don't go out of your way.
Watch it, but don't go out of your way. All right. I like it.
Maybe that should be a tier of recommendation. All right. Well, if you want to get a hold of us and hype something up that we're going to be disappointed by or maybe surprised by, you can do that by email. We're at moviehowl@gmail.com, and we are on Twitter, or I should say Joe's on Twitter, at moviehowl.
Yeah, I sure am. Thanks for that, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, everybody, Howligans, once again, thank you so much for listening to Movie Howl with Joe and Ryan. Always a fun time for us to get and do this. Even if we have to watch something that's not the pinnacle of cinema, this is a fun thing for us to do. We're going to keep doing it because we enjoy the hell out of it. Until next time, I've been Joe.
I've been Ryan.
And we are out.